Welcome back. We go to space, but not to the moon. As scars go, the one that Jupiter is now sporting is nothing less than massive, a real shiner. After an amateur astronomer in Australia first noticed it in his backyard telescope, NASA scientists have confirmed that the solar system's largest planet has indeed been hit by something that left an imprint the size of Earth. And it is the second such collision for Jupiter in recent years. I discussed it late today with physicist Michio Kaku. Professor Kaku, great to see you again. So the last time we had an impact of this magnitude was apparently 15 years ago. That's like a blink of an eye in the history of the universe, isn't it?
That's right. We used to think that once every 1,000 years we would have an extraterrestrial impact like this, and now we had two in 15 years on the anniversary of the Shoemaker-Levy 9 impact. Amazing.
That means that it's perhaps an intelligent body.
Amazing.
With a sense of humor.
Possibly. A good thing it didn't hit the Earth, by the way. The Earth would have been a sitting duck for an impact of that nature with enormous consequences.
And I gather the reason why it may not have hit Earth is because Jupiter acts like a very large goalie in the universe, in the galaxy rather, with us being the net. So when it catches the balls, in other words the meteorites, we're the guys who are safe. Is that right?
That's right. Jupiter's like a vacuum cleaner. We need Jupiter. Without Jupiter, the Earth would be hit every week, every month by gigantic meteors and comets left over from the debris of the solar system. So Jupiter helped to clean out the solar system billions of years ago, and that's why you and me are here today on the Earth without being hit by a meteorite today.
I have to say, I never thought of Jupiter in that light, but I will do from now on. Tell me, how big was this thing?
Well, if it was like what happened 15 years ago, it was about a mile across, came in at about maybe 100,000 miles per hour, and created an impact, a fireball the size of the Earth. If it had hit the Earth, it would have devastated the entire United Kingdom, wiped out most of the Northeast, Washington, New York, Boston. This was a very large city buster if it had hit the Earth.
And since it's hit Jupiter, what kind of damage would it created there?
Well, if we could judge from what happened 15 years ago when 20 comets slammed into this gigantic planet, we once thought that it would be nothing. Jupiter is so big, it would be like a mosquito bite. We were wrong. We now realize that the fireball created by an object just a mile across could be the size of the planet Earth. So we had to revise all our estimates of what an impact would look like if something were to hit the Earth, and also the frequency. 2 events in 15 years. That is incredible.
And what exactly was it made of, this thing?
Well, we're not sure. Probably ice. Comets are like frozen ice cubes from deep space, mainly made out of dirt, debris, and ice left over from the beginning of the solar system. So they're like a time capsule. That's why we love to study comets. They tell us about the original solar system 4.5 billion years ago.
So if one of these things of this size hits planet Earth, God forbid, we wouldn't stand a chance, right?
Not a chance. Forget Hollywood and all those movies. The space shuttle simply goes around the planet Earth. It doesn't go anywhere. A comet coming in from deep space would be far beyond the capabilities of the space shuttle. We'd be sitting ducks. There's virtually nothing we could do except pray.
Well, or pray to Jupiter, or thank Jupiter for that matter. That's what we're going to do tonight. Thank you very much, Professor.
My pleasure.
And one last note from deep space tonight. The crew of the Space Shuttle Endeavour took time out of their busy schedule today to talk to young people on YouTube. Where else? Among the many questions answered was, what do you do when you have to sneeze in a spacesuit? The answer, aim well. And the shuttle crew will get a chance to apply that very specific knowledge again tomorrow when they take their 3rd scheduled spacewalk. From natural menace to natural marvel, in much of Asia today, people were gazing upwards. The longest total solar eclipse of the sun that this century will see was viewed by millions. It began in India, moved to southern Japan, and then on to the Pacific Ocean. Spectators vied for the best view that they could get, and a group of eclipse chasers even took to the air. The BBC's David Shukman reports on the celestial spectacle.
Live on Indian television this morning, an event in the heavens inspiring fear and excitement. Just after dawn, millions gathered beside the country's great rivers. For some Hindus, the gradual darkening of the sky offered the chance to wash away their sins. The prayers never stopped. This was the longest eclipse of the century, a hugely significant moment, with the sun reduced just to a flickering ring of light. Many in the crowds continued their worship during these long minutes of darkness. High above the monsoon clouds, an even more spectacular view from a plane. The diamond glint of the sun as it starts to break out and reappear.
It's very powerful to have a night in the middle of the day. One thing interesting was when you looked up, there was a star, a bright star in the sky.
But further east, the shadow of the moon reached Thailand, where many believe an eclipse means trouble.
This ceremony is for protect our country because it is the time of a very bad time, bad period.
Across Asia, this was a memorable day. And the next eclipse this long, not for 123 years. David Schuckman, BBC News.
To a rather important anniversary. Two of the astronauts who took part in the first moon landing 40 years ago have called for renewed efforts to send a manned mission to Mars. Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, said the race to get to the moon had been the ultimate peaceful contest. 40 years ago today, Armstrong, of course, declared one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And to mark the anniversary of the first manned moon landing, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins will be honoured at the White House by President Obama. Our science correspondent Pallab Ghosh remembers the day that human endeavour reached new heights.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Humanity's finest moment. Neil Armstrong becomes the first man to set foot on the moon. He's followed by Buzz Aldrin, and together they claim the lunar surface. It began at the Kennedy Space Center on July 16, 1969.
We have liftoff.
And so begins a journey that will change the world forever. Neil Armstrong and his crew are on the ride of their lives. 4 days later, and 40 years ago today, they orbit around the moon. Last night, Neil Armstrong relived that historic moment.
That same day, Apollo 11's lunar module, named Eagle, made a smooth touchdown on Luna's Mare Tranquillitatis, fulfilling the dreams of those hundreds of thousands who had devoted their lives to that project for nearly a decade.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
We knew it was dangerous, but we don't think about those things. You're in there to execute. You're part of a team. There are other people that are members of that team, and your job is to be as cool as possible.
They return to a hero's welcome and the dream of a new era of space travel. Many people thought that by now we'd be routinely living on the moon. But in 1972, the world lost interest in the moon missions, and so the Apollo program was scrapped. NASA's plans to send astronauts back to the lunar surface by 2020 are likely to be delayed because of the current economic crisis. But some believe that one day we will once again make that giant leap and return to the moon. Pallab Ghosh, BBC News.